welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, we have a special guest today, and before I introduce him, you and I have been doing this for many years, and you have you've heard many stories that I've told, right, or references of things.
Yes, I have. I have them all on tape.
Remember, many times especially when I had some of the kids in here from the arts. As a kid, you know, I had a lisp. When I was in elementary school, I made it well known I was not a good student. I made coffee nervous. I was anxious. I was insecure.
You'd never guess that now.
Oh, come on. And honestly, I would go home and I would hang my head and I would feel so small. And after speaking with my guest, who is Stephen Gourley, who is the director of music at the Village Chapel since 2014, I started thinking back to my early elementary school days, and I think I forgot, or if I hadn't forgotten it, I had blocked it. I also stuttered a lot, and it was a cause for insecurity. I wasn't a good listener in school. Teacher said I didn't pay attention. Of course I didn't pay attention. Stephen has a story to tell today. He is a stutterer. And Stephen, from what you told me, you came back here in 2014 from Texas. So back here is home, North Carolina?
So born and raised in Goldsboro, which is about 2 hours east of here.
Okay. And had you been in Moore County prior to that, or was this your first sojourn into Moore County?
I had not. I think the furthest kind of south central part of the state was about Fayetteville.
Okay. So you took the job at the Village Chapel, and prior to the show, you and I were just comparing notes, and we know a lot of people in common. Kirsten Foyles, for one, who was a real estate attorney, is an attorney with First Bank, and a choral director, if I'm not mistaken. And her daughters, who you know, all 3 daughters, and you smile, and very talented and very big-hearted young ladies, huh?
Absolutely. In general, the music, specifically church music community, is very small, and of course, Kirsten and I are a part of that and work in churches less than 2 or 3 miles apart, and
right.
So I've certainly had the opportunity to know her and their family's artistry, and very, very proud that they are continuing that.
I know you're gonna be speaking about stuttering in a big picture view, but you're also going to be speaking about the fact you're going to be hosting a screening of a documentary called My Beautiful Stutter, which is going to be shown at the Sandhills Community College on Monday, February 21st at 6 p.m.
Correct.
How did you and the association that I guess this is being put together under is called SAY, S-A-Y, the Stuttering Association for the Young?
Yes.
Is stuttering something that just occurs with the young?
So, primarily, yes. When children are first developing language and basically learning to speak, it is common. It can be severe or not. There is what's called neurogenic stuttering, which can happen if somebody an adult or teenager or older suffers brain trauma of some kind.
Okay.
I don't know the exact numbers behind that, but certainly from a young age, yes.
Were you a stutterer at a very young age?
Yes, I don't have as many memories kind of speaking kind of early, say like 2, 3, 4. My parents say that that it did start fairly early. Yes.
And how did they react to it? Because I have a feeling that the way people react to people who stutter could be part of the problem.
I would certainly not ever say that my parents were part of the problem, or a problem. I think most parents, well, I know that most parents want what is best for their child.
Sure.
I will say that I was in speech therapy from at least kindergarten, first grade through probably fourth or fifth grade. And for my memories of that were that therapy was focused around taking or focused a bit more on breathing, because certainly for me, I can get tense,
Right.
and it's not that breathing or taking my time necessarily makes things better. It can. It's just the way that, frankly, my brain and people who stutter's brain are wired, that we know exactly what we want to say. We almost always do.
Sure.
It's just it's just that getting from our brain to our mouths is where things can get problematic.
I understand. It's funny because with my mother and father, when I was in speech therapy with the lisp and stuttering for a short while, but I guess I outgrew it. And I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but my mother said, "Oh, we have to work on this, blah, blah, blah." My father said, he's so smart, his brain is just moving ahead of his words. Right? So my parents, two completely different angles about the issue because I was their child. Do you see a lot of that?
I can only speak for my own parents, and that's to say that they couldn't have been more brilliant in their support.
That's great.
And there was never a push. There was never a push to get things out. It was always the time I need.
Okay.
And so I really do count myself fortunate in that way. And the thing I would also say, just to kind of tack on, is that my entire family, I have a very close family. It's just the nature of
Right.
of us. It's really all the same. It's just a naturally supportive group of people. My sister, who's 18 months younger, support is all they know.
Okay.
And love is all they know. And so I've just been really fortunate growing up, and certainly as an adult, and the journey that I've kind of been on in the past 4 or so years, which we'll talk more about. That they've just been thrilled to support me. It's really the best way I can say it.
So I have a feeling there are a lot of misconceptions about stuttering, its origins. Is it something that, it can be at all ages, but people have, and they don't talk a whole lot about it. The awareness is not, I don't think it's great, but hosting this screening is one of the first steps in making people aware of what it's like to be, I think in the movie it's the children are between the ages of 9 and 18.
Basically.
To basically see the world from their eyes, which I don't think people do. As a choral director, right, do you sing?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Okay, so one of the things in the back of my mind, and just from a layman, is it true that somebody when they're speaking can stutter, but when they sing, no stutter.
Yes.
Why is that?
So the short answer is that we speak from the other side of the brain than we sing from.
Okay. Okay. And so there's a physiological origin to stuttering.
Yes.
That's a fact, right? Okay. You've been through the mill, but as a child, how did it make you feel growing up with your peers?
So I don't know that stuttering caused this. It may have, or if it's just a genetic thing. I'm naturally an introverted person, so I'm not. Certainly, what was the case then. So I was not as quick to initiate a conversation.
Right.
So certainly, I and one of the things that will probably come up is that people who stutter will often try to be covert stutterers, so that they will try to hide the fact that they stutter. So
Right.
that might mean short answers, or if you can find a way to not speak at all, you will jump at that opportunity.
Yep.
I mean, so there is, regardless of if it happens or not, there will, certainly for me and through the various young people I've known, there is always a fear, at least, of ridicule,
Yeah.
and certainly the fear of unknown. How will somebody respond to something that really they may not know anything about?
The screening of the movie is one of the first steps in hopefully trying to destigmatize the effects of stuttering. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. The thing that has kind of been reinforced through Say, and something that I've really, it's something that has stuck with me, is that the difference between someone who doesn't stutter and someone who does stutter is that someone who does stutter just needs a little more time to say
Right.
what it is they have to say. And to me, there's so much behind that. It really, hopefully, makes everyone just kind of stand back and go,
Right.
"Oh yeah,
Right.
let's just be patient."
Right. You never know. You never know when you're speaking when it may or may not kick in, right? And it doesn't stop your thought process. You're still delivering the thought to your mouth to get it out, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And the really important thing is that no two people stutter the same way. Just like no two people open their car door the same way, or drive, or walk the same way, or even somebody who is fluent, or even two people who are fluent may not speak with the same cadence. People who stutter will show their stutter in different
Okay.
ways.
And people who are listening to you will listen to you in different ways. And so my question is, when you are speaking and stuttering, do you want people to just continue to make eye contact, not to, but if they turn away, does that cause more stress for you? Because how the world perceives you, how does that make you speak?
So I think the first thing I would say is that I learned at a very young age, and kind of from the men in my life, specifically from the men in my life, I was always taught to look someone in the eye.
Right.
The respect that comes from the other person who looks you square in the eye is something that I've not forgotten.
Right.
And so I certainly will take note of. I don't. I try. I don't. I certainly don't want to judge anyone who listens in a different way than I do, or to somebody else that I've just spoken with or know. The thing that I take away sometimes is that people might just be uncomfortable with
Right.
the way I stutter, which it's when I say the way I stutter, I mean how my body is reacting, because what people see from me or from somebody who stutters is not the fact that they stutter, but their body's reaction
Gotcha.
to it.
We're going to come back in the second set. My guest is Stephen Gourley. He is the director of music at the Village Chapel in Pinehurst. He's going to be hosting a screening of the documentary My Beautiful Stutter on Monday, February 21st at 6 p.m. at the Sandhills Community College. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to All Things Moore County. Stephen Gourley, the director of music at the Village Chapel, is our guest. Stephen is, I guess, a lifelong stutterer, and he has affiliated himself with the Stuttering Association for the Young, abbreviated by SAY, S-A-Y, and he'll be hosting a screening of the documentary My Beautiful Stutter on Monday, the 21st of February at 6 p.m. at the Sandhills Community College. When we talked in the first set real briefly about singing and speaking, where the singing comes from one side of the brain and the speaking from the other, I was, in the back of my mind, I was thinking of the country singer Mel Tillis. And I didn't understand it as a kid. And I would watch him, and he was on variety shows when TV was so popular, and he would sing just flawlessly. So you have students who can sing flawlessly, but what happens, have you ever been in a situation where you're coaching or directing a student, a musical student, who stutters? Do you take them under your wing? Do you is your empathy radar very high to try to get them through the maybe the self-esteem issues that they may be having? You've got to have antennas up.
Sure. So the scenarios that best describe that are at Camp Say, which I've had the opportunity to serve in person now for 3 years in person, and then 2020 was virtual.
Right.
At camp, which is it is a traditional summer camp experience. So anyone who's ever been to a summer camp of any kind will have enjoyed lake time or rock wall time or sports of various types, or arts and arts and crafts, because Say was originally founded as a theater company for people who stutter. They have very much kept their arts programs, and part of the programs that they offer are. They have, in addition to sports teams, they have music teams and debate teams and science teams where you will present your findings, or in the case of a music team, you will meet for 3 or so days prior and decide what you're going to share, what you're going to offer. And in the areas of performing arts, it's such a soul-bearing presentation. Anytime you perform or present yourself in a performing way, you're just naturally bearing your soul, and in the way of in the way of music, I've had the opportunity to work with young people of varying ages, as we said earlier, from 8 or 9 through age 18. Some who have been on stage a ton, some who are deciding that they are ready to get on stage,
right?
And there will always be that fear, and if not fear, nerves, and sometimes very heightened nerves. And so the experience I've seen is that just being present for a young person who is quite nervous about being on stage, and if nothing else, it's not necessarily about sharing my own experiences about being on stage or being nervous, but also reassuring them that they have a group of hundreds of their peers, plus a staff of 60 or 100 who are there to support them no matter what. That goes such a long way that I've the feelings I've had of seeing someone who I know who I knew was so unsure about being on stage, to see them get on stage and not only thrive but also see the unwavering support of their peers is equal to that of a proud parent.
The theme of the documentary My Beautiful Stutter obviously addresses that, but it addresses so much more, doesn't it? And you're probably very anxious. Have you seen it already?
I've seen the film. So as it turns out, the first 2 years of in-person camp, the film was shown on my night off. So the first 2 years I never saw it, and then I had a chance to see it to see the film in 2020 when camp was online.
Okay,
and it was very real to me. And certainly as an adult, I've taken the steps to start, frankly, on a journey of acceptance of myself, which was something something I avoided for about 30 years or so.
You made a statement early on, something to the effect that kids growing up who are stutterers tend to be introverts.
I would say that certainly I was, and I know many others are. I've had the opportunity to know many young people who care not one bit about how they speak and are just naturally outgoing, and frankly, they inspired me.
Okay. Is it, if you are if you have a stutter and it's physiologically based, is there anything about medical treatment, drug treatment, anything that can help not alleviate it, but minimize it?
To my knowledge, there is not a cure or pill.
Okay.
Nothing. Sorry, nothing that is approved. There is a device called a Speech Easy, which is founded on the principle of delayed auditory feedback. So it's basically a hearing aid in your ear that you hear your voice speaking just on a slight delay, and that has provided success for some. As a musician, it turned music into noise.
Okay. Because our president is a well-known, was as a child a stutterer. He has improved over the years, obviously, but you can still see him when he's speaking. He still has it. It's almost like it sneaks up, and he gets through it. It's lessened over time. How come?
I think it goes back to what we said earlier about how it can be outgrown.
Yeah.
And I could certainly see that, having seen, certainly even in the last year or so, I notice when he'll change a word, which is something that people who stutter, I think, are probably more sensitive to. I know that I've changed a word on the fly. I've certainly seen him to do that.
Change the word on a fly.
Yeah.
For something he can say without a stutter.
Right.
But not lose the meaning.
Right. The meaning and hopefully the flow of the thought.
Of this statement. Yeah. You get to be a master of it after a while, right?
That's the goal, certainly, yes.
Okay. We're up and time is flying here. Stephen Gourley is our guest, the director of music at the Village Chapel, and he'll be hosting the screening of the movie My Beautiful Stutter at the Sandhills Community College Monday, the 21st of February at 6 p.m. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County. And Dorothy, I'm going to ask you to let me know when we have about 4 minutes left, because time is flying
Yes, it is.
in this conversation. If you would do that for me. Stephen Gourley is here today. He's talking about the screening of the documentary, I should say, that's going to be held at the Sandhills Community College at 6 o'clock on the 21st, My Beautiful Stutter. And it's a collaboration through is it a collaboration that started out of the SAY organization?
I can't say that it necessarily started. It was not necessarily Say's idea. They had been approached by a few folks prior to the documentary being made. That those just didn't pan out. When Ryan Geelan, who is the director of this film, approached them with a serious inquiry of making a film focused around Camp Say.
And that's Stuttering Association for the Young. How did you find out about SAY?
So I think it's a really great story. I follow Mariska Argate on Twitter, who will be most well known for her role on Law and Order SVU, which has been on the air for over 20 seasons now. But I saw her share a post about Say's gala or a Say function in early 2018, and was not familiar at all.
Right.
And so I took the time to not only read that article, but also go to Say's website, and was just frankly kind of blown away that such an organization existed, which was just to support young people. It was not about fixing or telling them here's what's wrong. It's support. It's entirely about support and helping young people find their voice. And from that, I found out about their camp, which up until 2018 was held in Hendersonville, North Carolina, just up the road from us.
Right.
They've since moved the camp away from here, but for me, that was just reinforces the power of not only social media, also how important it can be to have prominent voices to help bring awareness. And Say has a number of athletes and actors and politicians and news anchors, either who have stuttered or still do, but who have also just grown attached to us.
Okay. I want to ask you about the documentary more in depth, but you just said something that I'm confused. You said that you used to stutter but no longer do.
Right.
How does that happen?
It just goes back to what we had said earlier about outgrowing, and some will have a less pronounced stutter. Like there's some people who come into camp. There was one person who does stutter who is now a dear friend of mine. It took me until the second summer of knowing them that I actually noticed.
Okay, tell me about the documentary.
So my beautiful stutter is kind of takes on two roles. It is focused around Camp Say around 2015 or 16, and highlights kind of not only the various programs that Camp Say offers, and the really and its founder Taro Alexander, and features a lot of his really meaningful backstory. It also follows a handful of young people and their journeys to camp and at camp, and the effect that camp has on them. And the really important thing I find is, while there are many success stories either through camp, at camp, or Say's greater program, something as important is to notice is that camp can also be really challenging, especially if you're not used to, if as a young person you're not used to being around young people who stutter, or people who stutter in general.
Right.
It can sometimes have a negative effect. So being able to see how camp affects people in various ways, to me, is just as important.
Is it fair to say that one of the baselines for the camp is to hopefully improve or increase the self-esteem of the campgoers?
Confidence is a real key. One of the things that we are told as a staff at camp, and something that I think is really meaningful for everyone in their own daily life, either jobs or personal,
Right.
is to meet people where they are.
Right.
And that's so important, to meet each young person where they are. And people, and we will see young people who are coming to camp for the first time, or who have been coming 2, 3, 4, 10 years. We will never, or I should say, not always approach each camper at the same. It's always about where they are, and allowing them to grow.
Okay. Paul Rudd is involved in this. He's a well-known actor. He's also very much involved in the organization and the movie. I didn't know that.
Yes. So Paul Rudd came into contact with Say when he was researching a role in which the character stuttered, and thankfully has seen the value in the work that Say does, and has stayed attached and hosts a bowling bowling event each year, which has grown to also not only to continue to bring in loads of young people, but also more celebrities as well.
Okay. I just want to get a couple of final thoughts from you. If you want to, if you had a room of 100 people sitting here and you wanted them to walk out of here with all the important points on a 3x5 note card, what would you be telling them?
One of the most important things about stuttering for me is that people just don't know about it.
Right.
And
Right.
not only that, but that there's such a spectrum. And and so what's most important to me, especially in this kind of journey that I've been on, is that people just take the time to not only find out more about stuttering by itself, but also how it affects them as a person, and the way they actively listen. It's not so much about getting through a thought, but just being present for the person that they are speaking with.
Right.
And I think one of the most valuable things for a person who stutters, at least from my point of view, is that the person that they are engaged with are engaged with them, and that they are not so focused on getting through a sentence.
You sent me an email before you came on the show, and you asked me to allow you to speak through and to stutter and not to complete your sentence. And I've done that, I think. But it's a very considerate way to listen to you. Don't put any additional pressure on someone who stutters by trying to force the conversation or move it forward more quickly than it needs to go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very helpful advice. Thank you.
Of course.
The event is February 21st at the Sandhills Community College. You'll be hosting the movie My Beautiful Stutter. It's 6 p.m. on February 21st. Tickets are free, but you obtain the tickets at www.sandhills.org. ticketmesandhills.com. Or you can get more information about the movie at www.mybeautifulstutter.com. Or you can actually reach out to Stephen directly, Stephen at tvcpinehurst.com. If you had any questions, I'm sure people who might be listening, perhaps some parents might have some students, some children who are hopefully also students, who are working with a speech pathologist or going through this, and you might have some very important insight to add. It's been great to have you on the show. I hope the weather cooperates. These last few weeks have been kind of crazy, but we have 3 weeks to go.
Yes.
And we look forward to the presentation of the documentary.
I appreciate your time, and certainly am grateful to St. Hills for offering a space. I'm excited to also be hosting a talkback after the film with two of my colleagues from SAY's program in Manhattan, and hope to be able to present a very meaningful evening.
I want to invite you back if you want to come back to do some sort of a forum or something. We can certainly facilitate that and accommodate. If it's something that it would be good for the public to know, if it helps increase awareness, so you have an open invitation.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and I'm always open to helping to raise awareness.
Thank you, Steve. Stephen Gourley, Director of Music at the Village Chapel. We appreciate it. Hey, before we sign off for this week's show, I just wanted to let you know next week we're going to have a couple of guests on, a couple of different topics. One of them is here with me just for a couple of minutes. He's been a frequent guest on the show, and I'm talking about Jacob Toth, who's the artistic director of the Encore Center, they're doing a lot of great work, and you guys, you're not resting.
We're not. We go from one show to the next, keep going.
What's going on?
Well, we're very excited. It's that time of year where you made your debut on the stage.
My swan song.
We are doing our dinner theater production, and it's going to be around the world in 80 days. And what's fascinating about it is it's 5 actors playing 39 characters. So it's a lot of mayhem and mishaps and just fun. But it is a dinner theater. It's opening Friday, February 11th, and it's going to run until Sunday, February 20th. We're doing 2 p.m. matinees.
2 weekends.
2 weekends, over 2 weekends, around Valentine's Day. So perfect date night for Valentine's Day.
And who are you partnering up with for the dinner theater?
Of course, it's Ashton's doing our dinner theater for us.
Right.
For the afternoon matinee performances, they're doing a charcuterie platter for 2.
Yeah.
That's $30 per person, and you get a glass of wine as well. For the evening shows, we're actually starting at 6:30 p.m., so it's a little bit earlier than normal, but it's a $50 ticket. You get an appetizer, dinner, and a glass of wine. They're doing a roasted chicken, Turkish rice, gingered broccoli, and a Reading sauce, which is very traditional English. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're only selling 32 seats per show, so if you want to get your tickets, get them early.
And so next week, you said you have 5 actors in the production?
5 actors, that's all.
And you're going to bring a couple in next week to talk to us?
I have 4 gentlemen and 1 female in the cast, and I will get a couple of them here with me to talk about their experience and how it is performing, like I said, 39 different characters.
From where I sit, I thoroughly enjoy when we have some of the students from the arts. When they come on, or sometimes you bring in some of the actors. You were here at Thanksgiving, and you had that
Jose Noé,
very talented boy who goes
Little
to stores.
Noé Congas, yes.
Yep, and you did a Christmas story.
We did a Christmas story, yep.
So we'll have a couple of your actors next week.
Absolutely.
And you just did finish up a show.
We did. We just finished
New Year's?
Guys and Dolls. Actually, we had to do it last weekend, believe it or not. We actually were doing performances 2 weekends ago, and we had the crazy snowstorm, so we had to cancel performances. And we actually talked to the whole cast, and they were able to do this past weekend. So this past weekend on Saturday, we did 2 shows of that. And it was crazy because I was in one room rehearsing Around the World in 80 Days, and Becky was in the other room running the shows for Guys and Dolls. So crazy, but fun.
My memory of last year's dinner theater, which happened around Valentine's Day, was that it's a great venue to do something on Valentine's Day without having to get stuck with holding reservations for a restaurant.
Absolutely.
Where everything is served on time, everything runs like clockwork.
Exactly.
So people don't have to worry about fighting the masses.
That's right. And it's a one-shot deal. Dinner and a show in the same place, it's perfect.
All right, well, come on next week and bring some of your guests with us.
We'll be here.
And we will speak to Jacob next week and a couple of other local guests who have some stories to tell. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.